Number 8, Tom Brady. You might say, Nick, how's Brady so low? Tom Brady has entered the category of people who could least use $10 billion. You know who's on the top of that list? Bezos and Musk. It's like, well, what are you going to put it with the other billions of dollars? Like, at this point, if you walk down the street and you say to a random sports fan, how many Super Bowls does Tom Brady have? I think most of them get it wrong. I think they're like, is it 7? Does he have 8? I don't. So you just put it with the rest. He doesn't have that much to gain, if we're being honest. That is a compliment to Brady. He was in this exact spot on the list last year and won the damn thing. Number 7, Dak. Oddly, it doesn't feel like it would move the needle as much as it would for the guys above him on this list. Now, the Cowboys obviously could win the Super Bowl, but because the story of this year has not been Dak got to another level, it's the defense got to another level. It obviously would be a vindication for Mike McCarthy. It'd be very embarrassing for me if Mike McCarthy all of a sudden has 2 Super Bowl rings. But Dak, any quarterback that wins Super Bowl has something to gain. Dak, I don't think has as much to gain as the next guy, starting with Josh Allen. This is, talk about my worst nightmare. Josh Allen, if they win the Super Bowl, given how it would mean they beat the Chiefs in round 2 in Arrowhead, and then they go on to win the Super Bowl, folks would argue Josh Allen is the best quarterback in the AFC, and it wouldn't be a ludicrous argument. I wouldn't like it. In fact, I would hate it.
Wow.
In fact, I would consider a change of profession, but I would have to listen to it. So Josh Allen can take the belt from Mahomes. He's got to beat McCorkle. He's got to beat Mahomes. Then obviously AFC Championship game, so on and so forth. Number 5, Matt Stafford. It'd be big for Stafford. You know who it'd be bigger for? Retired NFL quarterbacks that feel like they got screwed over by their franchises. Don't you think that if Matt Stafford wins the Super Bowl, Jeff George is going to be watching saying, I told you I could have done it. Phillip Rivers watching, he's like, God, dog it. See, you just need to put me in the right spot. This guy was in Detroit for a decade, goes to the Rams and wins. Also for him, it'd be total vindication. And for a guy who's number 1 pick of the draft, has all those 5,000-yard seasons, if they were to win the Super Bowl, I won't agree with it, but people will start saying, hey, is Matt Stafford a Hall of Famer? He isn't, but that conversation would start. Number 4, Aaron Rodgers. If Rodgers wins this Super Bowl, he's going to win this MVP. I think quarterback Mount Rushmore becomes Brady, Manning, Montana, Rodgers. I understand Gil Brandt and Peter King are very mad at the lack of inclusion of Johnny Unitas. My apologies to Johnny U. But that's what it would be. Right now, that 4th spot on Mount Rushmore is wide open. Is it Dan Marino? Is it Brett Favre? Is it John Elway? Is it Roger Staubach? Is it Terry Bradshaw? I think Rodgers would stake a clear claim to it with a win. Speaking of Mount Rushmore's, number 3 is Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes would have accomplished more in 5 years than Rodgers, than Breeze in their careers from a winning perspective. He would not only be actually really credibly in the midst of a dynasty, but also would dead forever is something wrong with Mahomes takes if he ever has a slump again. If they win the Super Bowl this year, when he was the down year and all that nonsense we had to hear, PFF has him as the 10th best quarterback in football, and it'd be the greatest start to a career in NFL history. Number 2, Joe Burrow. If Joe Burrow wins, here's the question. Is this the greatest 3-year stretch for a quarterback ever? Nick, what do you mean? Well, in the last 3 years, he's been healthy twice. He had an undefeated national championship season in college, the greatest statistical college season ever, and he followed it up with his first healthy year as a pro, winning the Super Bowl for the Bengals. Winning a Super Bowl for the Bengals actually counts as 3. He would also now have more rings than Rodgers and Breeze and Mahomes, all those guys. He would have 3 of them. And then, all right, I know Cardinals fans and Niners fans and Titans fans, they're like, nobody from my team has been revealed. Is it number 1? They're not coming out. McCorkle and Belichick, most to gain. Oh,
Let's
soak
go.
it in.
Wow. Let's go.
McCorkle and Belichick the most a game. You guys know I don't believe in the baby goat nonsense. But if they win the Super Bowl and he's, dinking and dunking his way there, that does feel a little Brady-ish. And for Belichick, Broussard, I think he's already the greatest coach ever. But I think in the Brady-Belichick, who's winning the divorce, I think Belichick doesn't just catch up, takes the lead. I think winning the Super Bowl with this Patriots team this year would be more impressive than Brady winning it with that Bucs team last year. Now, I don't think they're going to do it. However, it would be disrespectful of the Patriots and of Belichick to say they have no chance, like the Titans. Sorry, Titans.
Okay.
Titans actually did have a bye. I'm giving them no chance. But, so there it is. Most to gain. You can't say I'm not dripping with objectivity. I've got McCorkle and Burrow ahead of my guy. Pretty good. Broussard, your take.
All right, a fun list, Nick. Very fun. But I start with this. I do believe Arizona, San Francisco, and Tennessee have a shot. So I would like to see Cliff Kingsbury, and Kyler Murray on there like a split, just like Belichick and McCorkle. And I'd like to see Jimmy G somewhere on there. But dealing with the 8 that you have, my major issue, I agree with 1 and 2. My major issue is Mahomes has to move way back. I think Mahomes goes to 7 ahead of only Brady.
7?
All right, and I say that, look, you're right. He would gain a ton, obviously, from winning his second Super Bowl. He would restore the belief that he is the best quarterback in the NFL right now and that he is en route to potential GOATdom, as you and I have said. All right, there are definitely gains for him, as there are for everybody. But I just think, look, he's so young, and anybody that knows NFL history doesn't expect him to get to the Super Bowl or win it every year. It just doesn't happen. And anybody that would write him off because he didn't win the Super Bowl this year is just crazy and doesn't know the history of the game. Tom Brady went a decade, Nick, without winning a Super Bowl. All right, so Mahomes would have time left where he could rack up not only another Super Bowl, but many. So that's why I don't think he's ahead of like Rodgers and Stafford. I do think Stafford probably punches his ticket to the Hall of Fame, and you're right about Rodgers and what he would gain. So I just think Mahomes is about 7 ahead of only Brady. Other than that, it's definitely a good list.
No, that is it's a fair argument to say that if I've got Brady at 8, I should have Mahomes at 7. Two made men, so to speak. But because Wilds, there has been some chatter this year about what's wrong with Mahomes. Has Mahomes been figured out? This would dead that forever. And so that's why I have him where I have him. Wilds, I assume you're just tickled pink with your guys in the top spot.
Well, I think it's delightful. And for the record, saying like, Belichick would catapult above Brady. When Bill Belichick goes to his safety deposit box at the local Foxborough post office, there are not 6 Super Bowl rings. He still has the 2 Giants rings in there. The total ring score is 8-7 Belichick. Just if we're keeping count, don't just throw those Giants defensive coordinator rings in the garbage. They are there and they count. Off that point, we talk about counting rings. Talk about Aaron Rodgers. Dwayne Wade, I'm going to stay with me here. Dwayne Wade said an interesting thing earlier this week. He said, you know what? People are going to forget about Michael Jordan like we forget about Kareem. He didn't mean it meanly. He just said in the courses of time, the greats end up getting a little foggy as you get further and further away from watching them play. I think this is especially true with the quarterback position. We saw a stat earlier this week that Brady has thrown more touchdowns after the age of 40 than Troy Aikman had in his entire career. And that's just because the game and the offensive passing has transcended even in the last 30 years. It's totally different. So I don't think any quarterback stats are actually going to hold up in whatever the NFL is going to be in 20, 30 years from now. So I think it's going to boil down to rings. And if you can say, Aaron Rodgers, he was one of the greats. He won a few MVPs. He was the lifeblood of, Packers football.
He needs one
I think a teenager is going to be like, why do you only win one ring then? And you'd be like, good point,
Great
kid.
take.
That's a good point. I'm an old man. I got to go eat some porridge.
Great take.
So I think Rodgers needs this
I
one.
think
He's
you're
got
right.
the bye. It's going through Lambeau. He
Great
needs
take.
it.
No, I think you're right, especially because Rodgers
End
Favre,
the segment.
for some Green Bay folks, is still a real debate. Favre has 3 MVPs, 1 ring, and 1 Super Bowl appearance. So like 5 total high-level accolades. Rodgers right now has 4 MVPs, or he's about to when he wins this year, 1 Super Bowl ring, and that's his only appearance. So he probably needs, at least to make the Super Bowl, if not win it, to officially, I think he's past Favre. But for it to be unanimous, just to pass Favre. I agree. I think history, for quarterbacks, they're going to look at MVPs and they're going to look at Super Bowls. I think, go ahead, Wild.
Just quickly, if he gets to the Super Bowl and loses, I think it's going to have a little bit of a LeBron factor, where it's like we're not giving you any credit for getting to the Super Bowl and losing. I
not when he
don't think
loses
that's
to
the way
Mahomes.
it's going to play.
No, it's like the 17 Warriors. No shame in that.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.